So what are we talking about today, babe, in the garden? We're being dive bombed by bees and wasps everywhere.
We're talking about herbs today and using herbs and choosing herbs, because I think it's fairly important that people understand how to choose herbs and some of the pitfalls people have when using herbs and choosing herbs. And when we say herbs, we're not talking about those dry powdered things you get in the supermarket. We're talking about growing your own fresh herbs of many different kinds and varieties, many kinds of which people use for medical reasons. And this ultimately is the biggest point I want to bring home, is that when I use herbs and when we use herbs here, we don't use them for medical reasons. We're not treating symptoms. We're actually using herbs for their fantastic nourishing qualities, because many herbs are full of vitamins, minerals and phytonutrients that you don't get in your processed foods and your ordinary supermarket conventionally grown produce. So when I recommend herbs and when I choose herbs, we want, we're choosing them because they have a great raft of minerals. There are 92 different mineral elements in the periodic table, and your conventionally grown produce just doesn't have that spectrum of nutrients. So it's the good, naturally grown or wild grown herbs that haven't been genetically modified and haven't been domesticated that will give you those nutrients.
In really natural rich soils, mineral rich soils.
Yeah, so one of those conditions is that when you grow them, you need to really grow them in good quality soils. You need to build the soil yourself with rock dust, organic matter, different type of additives, different types of sands.
When you say additives though, just clarify that. So it's
natural additives, so you'll be using things like bentonite clay and zeolite. You'll be using seaweed solutions, stuff like that. When you're using your herbs, it's important that you use your senses. So herbs are going to look good to you, they're going to smell good, and they're going to taste good. So it's very important that you taste the herb before you use it, and probably even use that herb alone and see how it feels in the body, because herbs contain many different types of active constituents, active compounds, which some people might find irritating or they might be allergic to, and you're not going to know if you use a whole combination of those herbs in your smoothies or in your salads without first trying them. So it's very important. Don't just take my advice or someone else's advice that this is a good herb or this does this, because you might react to it differently. You have a different biochemistry. It might precipitate a healing crisis which you're not ready for. It could do all sorts of things. So really know your herbs and choose your herbs carefully. Don't choose them for medical reasons, because we don't believe in treating symptoms. Symptoms are effect. You want to get to the cause. A really good way to know what you're using or know what type of herb it is, if you can't positively identify it yourself, is just to grow it from seed. So start growing it from seed, plant it yourself, nurture it, bring it up to a flowering stage, take it through the whole cycle of life, get familiar with what it looks like, its growing conditions, and then what it tastes like. And then you should be able to go to anyone's garden and identify the same herb. Many herbs have things called alkaloids. In small amounts they could be fine, in large amounts they could be poisonous, so you have to know what you're eating. A lot of herbs have things like oxalates. A lot of people jump up and down about oxalates. They say they're bad for us, but most herbs have them, and in controlled amounts you should find that they're probably okay. I know Isabel Shippard has Access Research. Isabel Shippard is one of Australia's premier herbologists. She has Access Research, which has shown that if you're not deficient in calcium and you're not deficient in adequate vitamin D, which is sunlight, then oxalates or oxalic acid doesn't really create much of a problem. And in any case, if you're choosing your herbs through your senses, how you feel about the herb, and you're rotating them, there's a periodicity with your herbs. For instance, I might eat borage leaves and have a few borage leaves here and there in my smoothies for a few weeks, then I might not touch them for several weeks. I haven't touched borage leaves for several months, and I've only just started eating them again. A lot of people jump up and down about comfrey, because comfrey has alkaloids called pyrrolizidine alkaloids, and they've been shown to cause liver toxicity or liver damage in rats. Mind you, when that was extrapolated out to human conditions, it was found that you'd need to eat the equivalent of about 19,880 leaves of comfrey to get the same amount of liver toxicity in humans. So as you can see, if you're taking one or few leaves here and there from herbs and you're rotating it and you're going by how your body feels, you shouldn't really have a problem. The biggest thing is just to know what you're eating, positively identify it for yourself, see how it feels in the body, and rotate your herbs. And if you're doing those things, you should be super.